Manufacturing Engineering Group. I've been with General Mills for just over 23 years, via 8 different states. DC's home for me, and here I am. So I'm excited to moderate today's session as well as kick it off. This is another session in our Black History Month series, and that team has just done a phenomenal job with Black History Month. So at this time, I just wanted the Black History Month Committee us into a couple of things. We're going to talk about a village in crisis today and hear from some giants in the community. And I'd love to hear these words of wisdom. I just encourage you all to take notes. We'll have plenty of time at the end for dialogue and conversation, but as we go, feel free to interject anything. Again, it's a close, intimate setting. The other thing I wanted to just point out is I'm the only thing standing between you and happy hour, so I'm going to try and keep things moving. And whether happy hour includes alcohol or not, I hope when you leave here you're happy. So it's happy hour one way or the other. So we'll get out of here. We'll have a hard stop at about 4:20. Just to wrap up, I've got a little alarm that will go off and let me know it's time to start bringing this thing to a close. So again, a celebration of today's Black Champions Network, Black History Month, Village in Crisis. I wanted to just remind folks of a couple of things. So I think we have something very unique and special here. I see a couple of past BCN presidents, and I appreciate you guys always continuing to support. Following up, who is the founder and CEO of Insights News. And when you talk about global reach, I believe this is one of the first African-American news medias to hit the World Wide Web, and has a very broad reach. So we'll have Al join us and then introduce himself. We also have the Honorable Darlene Bell, who will come up and talk to us about mentoring. She's the Director of Multicultural Outreach with the Big Brothers and Big Sisters program. And you talk about broad reach. Darlene's bio is several lines long, and it will take me all day to get through it all. So looking forward to hearing from her. We have Scott Gray, who is the Minneapolis Urban League President and CEO. And again, you talk about the impact of the Urban League and how the Black Champions Network can play into that. That would be insightful to hear. And then we have James Burrows II, who is our Executive Director, Office of Equity and Diversity for the Minneapolis Public Schools. And you think about the 28,000 employees we have at General Mills, this brother's reaching 34,000 kids in the Minneapolis school system. So very broad reach. So with that, I'd like to just invite the panelists to come up and have a seat, and let's give them a round of applause. So again, I want to talk a little bit about how this panel is going to work. I'm going to ask the panelists 3 or 4 prepared questions and allow them to each give their insights. Again, we're standing between you and happy hour, so I'm going to respectfully ask that they keep their comments relevant but brief and allow everyone to engage in the conversation, because I know all of you have some questions for them after they get through.
I'm from Mississippi, Father side from Cuba, Jamaica, strong Jamaican Caribbean identification and influence in my life. Been in Twin Cities since 1965, when my father moved from a packing house job in Kansas City to one in Worthington, Minnesota. I have
Chief Executive Officer of Minneapolis Urban League. I've been here about 2 years, a couple of months, and 2 hours, and about 30 minutes, but who's counting? I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm coming here by way of Madison, Wisconsin. I was running the Madison Urban League. Before that, I was Regional Director for Habitat for Humanity International, in which I had a territory of the Midwest and had oversight of about 200.
All right, hi, I'm Darlene Bell, and I am the Director of Multicultural Outreach for Big Brothers Big Sisters in the Greater Twin Cities. And my background for over 25 years has been mentoring youth, children. Not only do I work for a youth-serving organization, I've been a mentor over 25 years, and all the way from foster parent to adoptive parent to children's Home Society to Big Brothers Big Sisters. So that, and I guess the whole background, let me back up a little bit about the youth thing. So I have one brother, no sisters biologically. I have spiritual sisters, but no sister biologically. And my parents, one parent is, my mom is from Alabama, Lapine, outside of Montgomery, and my dad is from Newton, Mississippi, on the other side of Jackson. And so we grew up me and my brother grew up, our whole summers were down south in Alabama, and I love that. So then it came back here, and I got married, and I'm married to Curtis Bell back there with the video camera. And me and Curtis have 6 children. And our oldest son will be 32 this year. And so out of those 6 children, our oldest will be 32, and our baby will be 9. Let's let that marinate for a few minutes. Might need some popcorn on that one. Yeah, so I do love children, and we have 7 grandchildren also, so on top of that. So youth is something that I've always had a passion for youth, because that's how my mom and my dad were. My mom and my dad raised our family. Ooh, and that was another whole story, but my mom and my dad raised several of my cousins that came here from Alabama, and cousins from Mississippi, and aunts and uncles live with us. So that has pretty much been my passion, is youth. And yeah, I have a lot of connections with a lot of different youth serving organizations, and so I think that's one of the reasons why Michael asked me to be on the panel.
Thank you. James?
Sure. Good afternoon, folks. My name is James Burrows. I've been in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and St. Paul. It'll be 20 years in May. When I came here 20 years ago, I said what all of you said. I'm going to be here for a couple years. I'm going to leave this town. It's not as diverse as I want, but now, 20 years later, I'm still here. And I like it. The work I do at Minneapolis Public Schools is real simple. We try to make sure that every kid there gets a great education, but also too feels valued and included. What you probably wouldn't know is we got 70% students of color in Minneapolis Public Schools. When you come to Minnesota, people don't think that there are that many people of color here. When I came here 20 years ago, there wasn't as many. But in our school system, there are quite a few now. And we make sure that we want to have a valued experience while they're here. My background, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. People always say, well, you've been here longer than you've been in Detroit. You still from Detroit? Absolutely. Talk to me, I'm still a brother from Detroit. My parents, my mom was from Detroit, Michigan. My dad from Birmingham, Alabama, so I spent time between the Midwest and the South as a kid. One of the things that drives me is, and I want to talk about a little bit today, is follow your passion, whatever that is. When I came here out of law school from Georgetown. I went to college at Morehouse, law school at Georgetown. Came here to be a lawyer. Was a lawyer at a law firm, pretty big one here, about 4 or 5 years. And I said, okay, my passion is young people and helping people move forward. So I went and took a job at a nonprofit. Now my mom said to me, what in the hell are you doing? I paid for this law degree, you need to practice law still. So I said, well, Mom, I'm a general counsel at the nonprofit as well. I'm the chief operating officer of the general counsel, so I'm still practicing law. But it was so great because it's called Summit Academy at OIC. It did job training, youth programs for kids who didn't have the opportunities. And coming from Detroit, I saw a lot of those kids, and I was one of those kids. Somebody looked at me and said, hey, you can do this. Unlike Scott's neighborhood, I grew up in a neighborhood where every business owner, corner store, the grocery store, the dry cleaners was owned by a person of color, particularly a black person. So when I saw that, I got inspired by it. I said, okay, what can I do to end up in this situation as well? But also, more importantly, what can I do to help going forward? So I went to Summit, worked there for a while, about 5 years, started my own consulting company, did diversity consulting for companies similar to this, like Microsoft and other companies as well, to try to create opportunities for young people. Did a lot of work with law firms to create recruiting tracks and retention for lawyers of color as well. Happened in the school district job 4 years ago when I was in transition, and somebody said, hey, come over work for Equity and Diversity in the School District. Now, that was a catch-22, because your diversity department and what Ken does here, been doing it for 20 years, 20. Now, when I got to the it was the diversity and EEO department 4 years ago. It was about investigating harassment complaints, and that's about it. It was like, you got discriminated against. That was it. So I came in there and said, no, we're going to change this up. So long story short, we do lots of diversity partnerships and programs with companies like yours to bring people into the schools to talk to kids. We have a supplier diversity strategy now. We're actually completing our new building. We have 54% women and minority participation on that building. We do a lot with our Out for Good program, which is our GLBT programming, and CNN recognized that about a couple of months ago as far as all the good work we're doing with anti-bullying as well. So I was able to follow my passion and do that. In a former life, I was a concert promoter, party promoter, so I know everybody in this city. So if somebody says they know James Burrows, they probably do. But they know the bad James Burrows, or they know the good, now married James Burrows. So any story you hear is probably true, but I love being here.
Panelists, I have a few questions for you, and don't feel like you have to answer every question, but I'll just start out by asking, what do you identify as crisis in our Twin Cities communities? And if you could highlight the issues and the background of what you feel is a crisis. So, Howard, you want to start us out with that?
Sure. Out of respect for the question, I would gravitate towards two themes or two areas. One is access and leadership in our community, and the other would be wealth creation, I think. Then I'll step back and say I choose not to define these experiences as crises, but I see them really as opportunity. And so my orientation and my presentation really is about how do we shift our method of exploring ideas, experience like neighborhoods, with the overarching motivation that here is opportunity. What is around us is huge, pressing history, and that seem sometimes insoluble or intransigent, but the attitude that's most important for me is that we bring a spirit of doing and a spirit of capability, and if we invest that spirit in the area of wealth creation, we'll find ourselves planfully, willfully, and intentionally building wealth, family by family, person by person, community in our community. If we are intentional about leadership and have the same kind of can-do, must-do, will-do attitude, we will find ourselves stepping up to the arena, the table of leadership, the table of decision in all areas of our community. In history, some have said that our people tend not to engage, tend not to want to be involved, tend not to want to lead. And that is the problem that I'm talking about. I think the solution side of it, the right way of looking at this, not as a crisis but as an opportunity, is that there is a tremendous willingness of the society to accept and to find out about the kind of leadership we can and we will provide. The door is open, and we simply need to be motivated, encouraged to step through and to begin providing solutions and do solution building in a way that's profitable, that's successful, that builds individuals and builds community at the same time. So that's kind of a high level sense of how I approach the question of the crisis. At the end of the day, I think there isn't one, and I think that we have to stop using the language and simply focus on attuning our minds, creating a public mind that reflects this unquenchable capacity and ability to build and shape the world that's ours to do.
Okay, panelists, I'll open it up for others to.
Do I have to go next? I would respectfully disagree with Mr. McFarland. I think we are in crisis. But I agree with the point that the world is flat and that we need to carve out our own opportunity and be very much entrepreneurial about it to move forward. You know, when I think of crisis, though, I get the picture of our former president riding around in an airplane overlooking Hurricane Katrina. And then when he decided to come down, he had his arm around the FEMA director. I think his name was Brownie. Good job, Brownie. You're doing a good job out there. And it was a total mess from what we know, and being able to look at it from CNN. And I got a chance when I was with Habitat to really be on the ground floor in Katrina. Also, most recently, we had pretty big deal here in North Minneapolis when the tornado blew through this community. But in both of those places, poverty was already there. And what happened, the incident of that moment uncovered everything that was there. I know Brother Burroughs was on